Hi, this is MIchelle Tennant Nicholson. I blog at storytellertothemedia.com, and today I'm with PRAWNC. You can't see all of them, but there's a room full of people, and they're the Public Relations Association of Western North Carolina. And what we're talking about today is scoring WGN Superstation, and WGN is everywhere. So what do you actually do to pitch a TV station of this magnitude? What is something that you would first do? Let's say, those of you that are actually pitching TV, what would you do?
Send a letter of inquiry.
Okay, so you would send a letter of intent or a query letter. Now, is it through the mail or via email, or is it a fax, or what is it?
It depends on what they want, and usually the website will say.
Okay.
Mail it, fax it, or email it.
So the first thing you actually do is you go to the website to kind of see what their preferred method is. If you're using an expensive media database, sometimes they also have pitching tips inside there. That's part of why you pay the big bucks to them. And they'll say preferred pitching method by mail, or preferred pitching method by fax. Believe it or not, there are some. The producer who, and everybody's watching this video that you can actually click onto, associated with this link, this particular WGN segment, the producer, one of the ways that you can actually look and see is who are the producers at the website. So let's say you don't have an expensive media database, but you still want to get in relationship. So at the website, you want to look and see somebody called a segment producer. And segment producers are not hard to find. And you can also call the station directly. Just call the main, the receptionist that's actually receiving calls at WGN, and say, I'm looking for a segment producer who does your lunch show. This is their show at noon. And Tom Barnes is the guy who produced this one. And then once you get a relationship going with the one person, you can actually pitch multiple segments, different segments. If you have the same client, then you just want to, maybe we're talking about wealth here. Okay, this is fine. We're talking about mortgages, and we tied it into breaking news around the government providing programs for people on what to do if you're not foreclosing, but you're not really out of your job, but you just can't make it because your balloon, or your particular situation was just getting really hard. He also provided in this a full article that he provided them, and then he actually repurposed it on his own website. So he is a very successful internet marketer, and he also does infomercials. One of the biggest things that we did in this segment for him was to actually have him be less salesy. So when you see this back at your desk, when you watch this program back at your desk, you'll notice how we media trained him to not promote. And in fact, what happened is they were asking him questions to self-promote. But as you know, the self-promotion is not appreciated by the media. They really want you to downplay and really upplay the educational pieces, the tips that you have for the public at large. And then they gave him a book plug, which was, great. They won't always do that, but they will if you provide them the right JPEGs and the right information. So what other questions do you have about, so we've moved from local TV, now we're going to sort of regional, or like the next level of media. And this would also go the same way for newspapers to like we're going from our Asheville Citizen-Times or Mountain Express to, let's say, the Chicago Tribune. We're going from a secondary market to then one of the top 10 markets. And it's not that much different as far as the pitching method. I think query letters are great, like she provided. I think that it's also important that you let them know who you are. I'm a publicist. I have several segment ideas for you. Can we begin a relationship? Just like you would, you're at a bar, and you want to meet somebody new, and you want to strike up, or like today, we're at a business network, and you don't want to come on too strong. What do? Let's work together. You don't want to just be, in somebody's face, but you want to say, well, I'm a publicist. I play stories. What do you do? Like we were talking when we were having lunch, and the ladies were talking about, well, I do this in marketing, and I do that. I do a little bit of PR. I do a little bit of marketing, and do a little bit of direct mail. And then you can kind of feel the water, how you can work together. A producer is the same way. A segment producer will say, I do the noon hour. I really like stories about business. Or I reach a lot of moms, so I like anything to do with parenting. Any other questions about approaching and pitching WGN. This was, you know, what we really watched for was breaking news and got his attention with a breaking news item around the mortgage industry. Yes?
It sounds like you have to go to a lot of the different TV stations and print and everything like that on a local basis. What if you have a national client and you want to get national reach as quickly, as fast as you possibly can within, you know, a 7-day period?
Get a list, and you can purchase lists, okay? Get a list of all of the segment producers across the country. You know, like I said, we had, almost out of necessity, we started Blue Kangaroo, a technology company. We started Wasabi Publicity 7 years ago, 8 years ago now, I think it was. And I was having issues sending, and I'm sure you've had this issue, when you send an email and then there's an attachment, like a high-resolution photo, and the reporter says, I didn't get it. Because they have firewalls and spans that make sure that you don't go through. So we created a technology company to solve that problem, and now we have other products like PressKit 247, and then there's a free service called pitchrate.com, which most of you probably know about. It's where media get on there and they're saying, I'm looking for a story in health, I'm looking for a story in wealth, I'm looking for a story in love. And then you as an expert can then pitch back and say, choose me, I'm great because X, Y, Z. And that's free. But what I love on the back end of that for me, and you can actually, you know, get your own system like this as well, you don't have to pay big bucks for it, is you get your list together first. In my list, I've got every ABC segment producer, every CBS, I got my WGN and my, you know, middle regional people and so forth. And then I send them an email that's personalized. It also personalizes, so it says, hey Tom, I got a segment idea on mortgages. You know, it's breaking. USA Today just talked about how the government's putting out this program. Wouldn't you like to do a segment? I've got Dean.
And where do you purchase that, and how frequently is it updated?
Well, I personally use Cision. I'm not promoting Cision. You know, I use them. I also am impressed, although I don't use them, I did before, was Vocus. Vocus also provides clippings in there. They all do in a way. You should also check out Burrell's though. Burrell's is another, they each have their own little package they give you that, you know, for you to do your reporting and all that. Those are the top 3. And then if you can't afford those, then just use the thing at usnmpl.com.
And how does that compare to businesswire.com?
Well, businesswire.com and PR Newswire and wire services, those are wire services that you give them your press release and then they push it out, but then you don't have control over building that relationship unless that person calls you. You know, you might send out a release, you might get 2 answers, you might get 50 emails, or you might get nothing. And then what have you paid for? You know, you can also just purchase lists by need, like let's say you're doing, I think I was working with the Southern Appalachian Forest Coalition in Asheville, and they needed just the green media. And that was green media, print, TV, radio, internet. And so we just purchased one list for them to nurture over time. And I think they paid $800. So it's pretty, so that's our WGN segment.